Sorry, man. What's the political term, the government term for
coalition
when people come together as companies? Cooperative?
Partnership?
No, a cooperative.
Coalitions.
No, a cooperative. Co-op.
A co-op, yes.
Is that still a thing, a co-op?
Yes, you still do get a co-op.
No, now I'm thinking that in all the co-ops that we've had, we've never had a co-op of creatives or artists.
Mm-hmm.
You as being governmental people, have you ever met a co-op of artists?
Artists, no,
where different creative companies came together.
No, they're always just on their own. Just this one has got his own company. That one's got his own company. There was never like a partnership in any of the stuff.
Okay.
And in actual fact, I think that can work because it would mean that different forms of artists will be now in one. They can take all the scope in one. For instance, if you are saying you want to run a concert and this concert needs a manager, instead of having a manager, the same co-op can take it over, manage it, do everything, provide all the different artists, your poets, the dramatic ones, and so on.
Yes, I think a co-op will solve so many headaches that we get when artists deal with stakeholders or the government deals with artists.
We could be a co-op.
But no. But I don't think understanding where most artists come from, because most artists come from the background of being from understanding them from the cultural side. Some of them are not even manageable because of Intone.
Yes.
So how then do you bring all of those people in one?
In one space.
Because their spirits might not be aligned.
Yeah.
So it would really need them, maybe if they are in one, under one, Intone party where it was. One. Then you can do it. But as government, we can't coordinate them. They will have to coordinate themselves and say, we are here all in one. We can do the co-op for provision of all the services.
But I think as government, you will listen to them more if they come as a co-op than when they come as individuals.
It's always been said we must come as a collective. Yeah. I'm just saying, here's a co-op. That's all I'm saying. But anywho, let's get started.
The different artists understand each other also. So they do know each other's language.
Yeah, I was about to say the alignment is essentially it's something that's very organic, that people's energies align and their intentions are the same. And as I said, we could be a co-op. On that note, I'm out here as the only visible face. What a wonderful feeling. Yakim is not close by. It's Women's Month and I've been given the stage on my own. So Molweni Banbapond. I'm here with the master builder in invisibility. Umavula kuvaliwe.
Yes.
And I am the mother,
Yes.
the sister.
Yes.
The child. I'm also the child. I am the everything. I am the lover of all things, and they have certified me as the official gatekeeper of the space. So imovulama gate. Imovulama I keep the gates open. That's all I do. Initially, they used it as they wanted to criticize how I move in the art spaces, and they said I'm such a gatekeeper. And we took it and we thought, actually, you do keep the gates open. You don't close them for anyone. It's about, how the African Americans took that word Negro. And they turned it around to use it as a term of endearment between each other. It's one of those where you take something that's meant for negative and you turn it around for positive. Yes, welcome to Ephondweni, ladies.
Thank you so
welcome
much.
And thank you so much for joining us. We're joined today by Babalwa Lobishe, the Deputy Mayor. Yes. I think that Ephondweni must be known as the podcast for deputy mayors.
Please don't step down a week
Previously
later.
posted over a coaster. Please do not leave a week later.
I'm not. What you want to tell me about this seat?
Yeah, we posted Brakusta and we have Aviral von
Buchenroder.
Buchenroder. I'm never going to say it again.
Buchenroder.
Aviral. We've got the beautiful Aviral. She is Mrs. Nelson Mandela Bay and the deputy chairperson of Dawn, the DA Women's Network. I had no idea there was such a thing as Dawn until I spoke to you 3 days ago.
Okay.
What is it?
In fact, they
What is
succumbed
it?
to our pressure. Remember, we took a protest to City Hall when they had only men as mayoral committee members. Just a week
and then
after
Dawn was
that,
formed?
they formed the Dawn. It's good.
It's beautiful that parties can influence each other that way towards positivity, towards progression as well. I'm grateful for that because we see much change when we can agitate each other as well so that we can move towards our growth and our becoming as well. Today, we have you here as a Pondo, not for political debates. Mm-hmm. We don't want to debate. We don't care who turns 30 years old and 10 years old. We don't care. We don't care for that right now. Today is all about the women's movement. It's all about, the struggle, the successes of women in politics and in different spaces as well. It can get political, but it's not debating. It's not to compare who against who and who does it better than who. But before we start here, Kim, I think it's very important to just say, hey to our girls. The netball SA team is doing very well in the World Cup, doing really well. I think thus far, at the point that we're recording, they've only lost one match to Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And I want to confess that I did not feel so bad. I do have my liking for the Jamaican nation.
No, you like Bob Mines.
I'm looking forward to meeting my Jamaican partner, by the way. Been praying for a nice...
Okay.
Yeah, man. I'm praying for a nice Jamaican man from the Caribbean. That's what it is. And they've only lost one match. As I said, they drew against New Zealand that I was very scared of. They might struggle against New Zealand. And the Banyana girls are also doing really well.
Yes.
And I think Nabobangeni look top 16, right?
They made history. It is the first South African football team to progress the World Cup stage to the top 16.
They the first senior.
Both girls and boys.
In both girls and boys.
Yes.
In the World Cup, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, I was about to know, but that was the African Cup of Nations. No. I get you. That's really well.
Banyana have already won that.
I think this takes me now to one of my first questions. In relation to us saying we're trying to look at the strides that women have taken up to this point. It was 1952 back then, the reason that we call this Women's Month, right? But let's just look at sports. And let's look at the difference between how men and women's sports are treated. What is your take on that? What is your take on the fact that just before Banyana had to leave, they had to doi for better treatment, for monies, for this and that? How do you feel about that? What's your personal take on it?
Well, it's quite disappointing to learn that at this day and age, post-democracy, and the very same people who have participated against apartheid government, who are now leading in the sports fraternity, are the ones that can't advocate for equality. So it's quite disappointing, and I think it's really taking us back. And if we are not going to put a strong, solid wall behind Banyana and other women who are within the sports space, we will be failing them. Because the same effort that is done on training is the same by men, is the same effort that is made by women. There's nothing different. The same lines and corners that are drawn on the field, that gives them parameters in terms of where to play and whatnot is the same.
It's the same.
So it can't be that when it comes to the payment, it's different. And I think it's one element that we have overlooked for many years. Yeah. We have not, we've fought for emancipation of women. And in that sphere, there's no capacitation needed. The only capacitation is for you to go and train, just like any gender. So equality ought to be achieved there. And I really have liked the posture of the minister when he was strong on saying equal pay, but equally even the previous administration of Minister Mthethwa, he was also advocating for that. So why must we, every time there's a new period of games, the same must be fought for?
We keep having the same conversation.
We keep having the same conversation as if they don't understand what we are talking about. So, and I think we must not tire. And it's high time that it does not only become their struggle, but we take it forward as well in all the levers of power. We push for it to be equalized.
Sure.
Women has always been the backbone of everything, to put it that way. But yet we have to give that, we have to go that extra mile and to push that, to give that extra strength, to show that we are worthy of whatever is given to us. And yet we are treated less than what we're supposed to be.
Sorry, someone might say when it comes to sporting games and the entertainment space in general, what determines the price is the sponsorship that comes in. So as long as we don't have a solid league that is followed as the DSTV league of the male counterparts, we won't get a higher payment for the female athletes. The reason for that is there's no money flowing into women's sports currently, either from the government or from private companies. If that's the case, how do we do it? How do we ensure that whenever there is a football team from Motherwell, from Warmer, from Calvin Day coming to play women against women, at least that stadium is packed? How do we move that? Because there's also a notion that says women never supports women, women hate women. Isn't this a case?
No. I don't think it's a case of women pulling each other down, but it's a case of us not being focused on what is on areas that ordinarily are not ours, because you will find us even on other sectors, like if you on the built environment, we are still new. And even on the built environment, we are slowly taking it up. But within the sports fraternity, it can only be supported when government has made the initiative. But I think this success of Banyana, we need to leverage on it and be able to be the voice behind it as women who are saying we are liberated. If we think that consciously we are liberated, let's then support our other women to take the ladder. And the noise is necessary for us to open even those doors within the media space. Because it is us women who even become cheerleaders of these men when they are going to go and play. We are the ones that are in majority supporting them. So why can't we support our own? And in any case, we are more likable when you look at us than men, if that is the case. So why not leverage also on that, you know?
Yes, the stigma of women putting women down, it's been put there. So we believe that they are more special than the other woman, or they are better than the next woman. So why must I uplift that person. I mean, that is a stigma that has always been hanging over our heads, and women are in reality not like that. We are mothers, we are sisters, we are daughters, we uplift each other, we help where we can. So because of that stigma, men also believe that women will do it, and that is why they just have that thing of not helping us or not uplifting us when it's necessary.
I think, when I look at the setup between women's sport and female sport, it's the same. I was doing a bit of research on the arts and how to empower women in the arts, because we've got Women's Month, and then we look at these things. For instance, the Mandela Bay Theatre Complex has a festival for women in arts Manyano during Women's Month. And I wanted to ask myself a question: why must we have this festival specifically set aside for women? Why can't we just be part of any festival? And part of what I found was that the struggle for female artists is, and I want to assume it might be the same for female sports practitioners, if I can call them that, is that you find that there's a domestic pressure on the woman more than there is on the man.
Yes.
So in a couple that is married that are in the same field, so a man and a woman are married and they're both artists or they're both sports people, right? You will find that there's more of a domestic pressure on the woman. So who makes the home? Who nurtures in the home? Who must make sure that the kids are in bed on time? Who cooks the baby dinner and the dinner for the father? And yet sometimes our rehearsals as artists can go up until midnight. And it's much easier for the male counterpart to say, I'll be back at midnight because rehearsals are taking longer. But the female counterpart will then have to say, I have to run back home quickly to arrange this and that, and then go back to rehearsals. But it's very rare that there's a lot of freedom for the female participant. And so having to overcome all of that in order to excel in your field, I feel is something that should immediately have extra payment for, right? Because you're working that much harder to overcome so much, right? And I think for me, secondly, it's how the sport where females participate are positioned in the media space. It's how you don't often see a match between two female soccer teams being labeled as a derby. Right? So obviously, even the corporates will not come and support that if there's no hype around.
Yes.
And who must create the hype? Because who creates popularity for a product? It's the media, it's radio, it's TV, it's newspapers. How do they report on it? It can't just be a little article in the corner there, right? We have to make a big fuss about it. So I think that's where the change could come in, and that's when we could start arguing for better payment of our sports women, just like the sportsmen do. I want to now ask a question of how relevant is Women's Month, historically and even presently, right? To the women who not only, let's forget about those that are not getting paid enough as comparison to men, but the women who walk the street today. How relevant is the history of Women's Month? How relevant is it today to say, let's celebrate Women's Month, when just this morning we hear that women and children were marching in Warmer because an 8-year-old was murdered and burnt by a 32-year-old male?
I think it's the relevance is as good as yesterday, because the same human rights they were fighting for yesterday are the same ones that we are continuing to fight for. If, for instance, we do have the freedom of expression, we do have freedom of being where we or living where we want to live. But the challenge is the translation of that between me and you. We both have rights, but how you translate yours and how you exercise yours. And the judiciary that is in between the monitoring or exercising its power for us to be able to manage our liberation or our exercise of these rights remains the problem in my view. Because when you infringe my rights, I become exploited as well by the expensive lawsuit that I must participate in. When you have done me wrong, when the child is raped, I must find a lawyer. If I don't find a good lawyer, I'm surely going to lose the case. And that judiciary is an organization that is enshrined in our own constitution, which has a right to practice fairly for all of us as South Africans. But you don't find that happening. And it's my main frustration. And for as long as when we interpret the setup of our country, we tend to mix judiciary with the state, it's where we are not going to know who is the problem. Because it's not government that sits or the president that sits and sit for all the cases, but it's judges that sit for the cases. How bakweba tending in English. How they judge. How they judge cases is quite ridiculous. You find a person being found with 4 goats and a person who has raped a child. Remember, a rape is going to mess up your life. Yes. It will mess you psychologically, it will mess you up financially, and even moving forward. But that person for the goats, for the livestock, will get 10 years sentence. The one who has raped a child, 7 years. What does that mean about the value of life? And it's the judiciary system that is keep on taking us back instead of taking us forward. Because if there was a strong processes in around the judiciary system for fairness, access to courts, in my view, is not enough, and it's what is our main struggle. We won't have many people repeatedly committing crime because they do so as they know that they are going to be let loose.
They're just going to get the slap over the fingers.
I'm telling you.
Slap in the wrist.
I just love what our veterans, to call them Lillian Diedrichs and those women, did for us. They have taken us out of that kitchen state, to put it that, being in the kitchen, and give us that freedom as women. But men, there's not all men, but if I think that if men just stand with us and if they just say enough is enough, you cannot go and rape an 8-year-old girl. You cannot sodomize a young 2-year-old. It's wrong. If all men just stand up and say wrong is wrong, then they won't. Then I think and I believe, as our Deputy Mayor say, the sentence must fit the crime. They won't just get a slap on the hand or a slap in the face. They will get a proper sentence. So I believe we need that support from everybody to get the proper voice out there.
And where we are now, most of the cases around, most of the victims of the crime, it's women. And whether it's directly or indirectly, if you are not part of gender-based violence, your child is on drugs and they are making your life a living hell. So either way, it's women that are enduring all of this. And who is selling the drugs? It's someone whom the judiciary is not willing to take them up. They will just come for bail. After bail, the case is gone.
in the 50s when women stood and came from all pockets of South Africa and from different races, they had placards that were written, "We stand by our leaders." And the struggle was Maslow's. So now I'm thinking, as a man who's sitting here and listening to the discourse, if we could go to the streets on the 9th of August as men and have placards written that we stand by our women, so now we are changing the scenario.
Yes.
So what would be the pressing issues that women would feel that as men we should champion, not on behalf of women, but with women hand in hand? What would be those issues in 2023?
In 2022, we want our freedom. We want the freedom of being able to walk the streets.
Yes.
If I want to walk in a bathing costume, I do that. If I want to walk in a bikini suit, I do that. With no one harassing me or raping me. I want my freedom to sleep without a burglar door.
Yes.
Or on the windows. I want my freedom to be able to walk with my bag from here to the bus stop without thinking of a man coming and overpowering me. I want my freedom to be able to go to the clubs, night clubs, dance all night and go back home without being harassed towards my car or killed, dragged or killed towards my car. That's the freedom that we do not have. We might have positions which we applaud the strides that have been made, because doors have been opened for women to be on positions of power. We are serving on various boards as women chairpersons. We are able to serve even on school governing bodies as chairpersons. So on all the levers of power, we are there. But how do you then enjoy that without knowing that your life is going to be at risk? Because even the decisions you are taking there, coming out of those decisions, you know you can be targeted. Someone can have access to guns. We want also part of the struggle that we are confronted with is the number of guns that are easily available. Because those guns, they are the ones that are killing our partners. They end up killing even ourselves. So this is the struggle that we are fighting for. Of course, in terms of being deemed equal with the other gender, for as long as sanitary towels must be a gift to us, we still feel that it has not came to what we want. Because if we are fighting for equality, if condoms can be free, sanitary towels must be free.
But both condoms are free, the female and the male one. It's just that you guys don't take most of the female ones. But
it's not the same thing.
No. We're talking about condoms, guys.
No. I'm saying condoms and sanitary. Remember, to go into a sexual intercourse, it's a choice. But to go on periods, it's a natural
biological process.
You can't avoid it.
Yes.
So any child should be able to be supported for that.
Yes.
So that's what we're advocating for. So our freedom, if we want to say we have been supported for total liberation, that comes with that package. We appreciate the birth certificates, the immunization of our children by our government, the sexual offences laws act that has been passed. Government has tried. And also the 40% that the president has pronounced on set aside for women, small businesses, it has not taken place on the ground.
Yes.
And we still are fighting for that, because you don't find that when tenders are given in municipalities, it's not normal that people must go and fight for it. It should be set aside from advertisement. It should be incorporated on every government institution. and not let people to form forums, fight for that. We don't want to literally fight. They must do it in a dignified manner, such that our dignity remains intact if we want to participate in the space.
And coming back to the march, as you said, having a man next to you, or just having an all-men march, that will mean so much to women. Then they know, yes, my partner's with me, he's standing with me, standing for me. So that gives us, as women, that power to continue living a free life, as the lady said, to continue that free life of living, and knowing that there won't be another person who's going to push you around and say, no, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to walk there. As the lady was speaking now about walking where you want. When I was a little girl, I grew up in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth, and there's a place called Helenvale. Everybody knows Helenvale. Katanga, yes. I used to walk freely any time of the day, any time of the night in Katanga. But now you can't even drive in Katanga. That's how unsafe it is. So with men standing up for us and with us, it's going to be actually a great deal and a big deal for us women.
It will be a great initiative.
I think I was laughing when you were saying that the example about the placards, saying back in the 50s, the placards were saying, we stand by our leaders.
Yes.
And what struggles would you be, what struggles would women be wanting to fight for that would lead to men saying we stand by our women? I laughed immediately when you said by our women, because this leads me to my next question. because we're sitting with 2 or 3 matured women here, right? But also there is the ones that come up behind us, the radical feminists who don't want to be possessed. I remember once it was a DJ who actually did that. Hands off our women. Let's protect our women, or whatever the case would be. But everybody rained on him and said, how dare you call us your woman? You don't possess us. You don't own us. Who do you think you are to come and speak of us as if we are your objects? That is like, hands off my pillows, hands off my couch, hands off my woman. How do you possess me? So I want to understand from you, ladies, with an element of maturity, having been through everything that you've been through, your experiential living, you know what I mean? What is your take on radical feminism, on the young women that you almost feel like they want to fight everything? Even the tiniest detail, like as I said, hands off our women, which was such a protective statement, and a man trying to call out for the safety of women. As we're saying now, one of our biggest struggles is for the freedom to be safe, to be secure. What's your take on radical feminism and how it perhaps progresses or regresses the women's movement?
I believe that you have to go through something to have a great say, an enormous say in a certain situation. So it's sometimes, like for an example, people are being coached to counsel rape victims. People are being coached to go out there and say, listen, you are an abuse victim. I understand what you're going through. So with the young ladies I'm going to put it this way, with the young ladies, the radical ladies that they sort of have an aggressive way of doing things and saying things sometimes. And then yet they don't understand what that person went through, why that person is saying that. And they just have their own way of doing things and saying things. Like if you're raped, you are not going to tell, most of the rape victims say, you do not understand what I'm going through. But then you will say, but I do understand. You've been raped and it's not a nice thing. But yet you don't, because you haven't been in that position. So the same with the ladies who say, how dare you say, that man was only trying to help. He's only saying that we will stand by you. Not that we possess you, but we will stand by you.
Because I think that's a challenge a lot of men face. Is that whatever they say, it becomes it starts a war within the more, and I'd say I honestly it's more within the young radicals, that still want to attach themselves to activism in a way, in such a way that they need to be seen as aggressive, and I'll fight for whatever I want to fight for, such that men now feel a bit. They're not too sure how to move with us. They don't know really what how to protect us, because the moment they're trying to lift a bag for us, they're like, leave it, I can do it myself, because whatever a man can do, I can do it too. Then there's a whole lot of that, and now it leads to a bit of a tug of war between men who really want to help and men who really don't want to be fuck-offed.
You know what? I think as the country, I've noticed in many instances we have double standards on we tend to want to be feminist and during the day, but at night we speak a different language.
Hey now.
Yes, because you would find us saying men are trash, but when it comes to us moving in unison with what we are putting across as women standing for women's rights, we are not there. I'm saying so because there are many victims of crime perpetrated by men, and we become selective in these social networks in terms of who it is to support.
Yes.
It depends. This man that has done this perpetrator, we look at his cover and then we find
how powerful.
How powerful the victim is. There are many instances that we can quote, but I don't want to do so. So we do have double standards, but as well, I understand because we are a wounded country. That has really not debriefed post 1994. We fight for things at times that don't necessitate for fighting for. We don't embrace what is supposed to be ours. For instance, we have voted for leaders, but you don't find us cheering up leaders in the political space. We tend to divorce the political space, but it's the space that influences everything. Even you staying here, there was a political decision. Even the water you are drinking, it's a political decision.
We're
that influences. You're not. Even the ones that you are buying and the shops that are selling, it's a political decision. Politics are running everything. And I'm saying if we can embrace what we vote for and what the country is providing. We fought for this country, and the country was fought not by words only, but by blood, sweat and blood. And there are those who have never buried their activists. And post that, we just want to, when government is providing everything, being elected by the people, because whether it's which party, green, yellow, or blue party, or what party, they were voted by the people. And those people are not participating on public participations. All they do is to participate on social media, people's posts, not on government posts, so that we are able to drive democracy. Because what we subscribed to in 1994 was a participatory democracy. Hence, today we are sitting with the name of Gqeberha, having one participant proposed it.
Yes.
And the whole was still confused, and that name was taken forward. We don't know what it means, but we are here as Gqeberha. Democracy took its course. And I'm saying we are a sick country because we still believe in fighting with government instead of embracing what is positive. Because this government has been formed in our will. Those who go and represent us are voted for by us. It's unlike a government that has imposed itself on us. So as we are celebrating the Women's Month, I think let's stop being cruel to ourselves and expect miracles when we are sending people that do not represent what we want to see. If you stay away from electing people whom you think are going to change the landscape, then you must keep quiet and take it as it comes, because you have failed to advance what you want to advance through that public representative.
I have a comment, but more question than comment.
Always.
Okay.
I want to hear what you guys think. I'm talking from your point, Letu Yoguba. It seems as though we are not fighting against patriarchy anymore. We're fighting against people, right? So I want to come back to us having democracy and having fought and activism and feminism, because feminism is a type of activism, right? So I want to ask the ladies here, what do they think of the intersection of feminism as a form of activism and liberalism, which is a political stance? Because I think where that thing comes from, don't call us your women, we are not yours, we're not your object. It comes from a sense of liberalism outside of community, because in the community we say all of the children are our children, all of the mothers are our mothers, all the fathers are our fathers, we all belong to each other. So where does activism, liberalism, politics intersect, and how's that going? And I'm asking directly the women who are involved in politics, because I believe they're also activists.
Yes.
Yes, I think one might be limited in terms of venturing on the contextual meaning of liberalism. But I think where we are as the country, we in understanding activism and feminism and the rights of each person for their own independence, and also in the context of building and supporting each other. How it becomes important how we manage the fact that we want to build a united nation. If you want to build a united nation, because what we subscribe to, what Mandela believed in, because it was Nelson Mandela who said, we want a free, a democratic and a united nation.
Non-racial,
non-sexist. We subscribe to all of that.
Apologies.
Yeah, but
She wants to relax. No, I just had to. I couldn't resist. Non-sexist, non-racial, non-binary.
I'm saying, if we subscribe to that, we ought to leave out some of the elements that are going to segregate us, because if feminism has a layer of bearing on segregating the both genders in a very rough manner. You know,
and
it can go to extremes.
It's more feminism as it is presented. It's the radical nature of feminism that is so dangerous and so divisive in its approach.
So if we're in the context of building a united nation, I would not encourage us to get to be too much of feminists, but one should be able to understand their rights. And I think even the brothers that we're raising, that our women, we grew up we are in Africa, by the way, and within our own African practice, I belong to my father and brother because they are my protectors. If you take our culture, if I have a child, it's my brother that is supposed to look after that child. And if I get married, that child must remain with my brother. because that has been a practice that is protecting my well-being. You must remember, if I have a child and now must go around and yoti kumfana ipintlaulo yam ipintoni, we are going to fight literally. But if that fight is taken by my brother, by my uncle, they are going to be able to meet at a certain ground. So our culture, some of the cultural practices were meant to protect us and to build us as a nation. But it's a pity that we have moved away totally from them. And it is why that today you find us all having mental conditions, because we have divorced the practices that nurture us emotionally.
In the past, you were talking about the liberal women. They stood up for our rights because they saw that men took us as soft targets. They think that we cannot stand up for ourselves. And they decided that they are going to be an activist for themselves and for another woman standing next to them. And we are what we are today because of women like that. We are strong because of women like that. We can call ourselves activists because of women of the past, of the 1950, the 1952 and 54. So I think we will always be women. Women will always be women. We will not change. But we're not that feminist, soft target woman anymore. We are strong-willed. We are emotionally, physically, we are also very strong. And to compare us to the women of the past is sort of a bit unfair. To do that to us, and also to compare us with a woman that's coming in the future, because they are going to be much stronger than what we are today.
Yeah, because looking at the dynamics, looking at the circumstances that they were dealt with, the women of the past, they couldn't find work because it was a taboo for a woman to go to work. They couldn't do or penetrate other, platforms
sectors
where they could be great in what they do. And I think if you're going to live in a society where you want to take one gender and put it on the pedestal that is higher than the other, then you are going to face a problem in the future. We were talking just now, about the concept of take a girl child to work there. And being someone who grew up in that era, because we are the kids who we saw apartheid going to an end, and most of the experiments were done on us in terms of the change of syllabus from Bantu education to what was it called? OBE and all these things were experimented on us. And when I look back and see the opportunities that were given to our female counterparts, had we were given the same way, we could have been able to grow together as a people. I don't know what your take is that, because I believe that you get at the end a situation where you have this exceptionally developed woman who is able to rise above things, stand for them things, they educated and whatnot, and you have a guy that's at the Chisanyama or at the corner because they were denied the same privileges and opportunities. What's your take on that?
You know what? I think in terms of opportunities, opportunities can assist you to open the doors that are directly dished on top of your table. They can open your doors. But I think what is more important is how your scope has been broadened at an early age. For instance, you can grow up in the location, but if you have not been exposed to reading magazines, reading books, you would not be able to know a lot of things. your scope would be confined, even your level of thinking and so on. But you would go to the same schools, your private schools. But if you have not been broadened in terms of thinking and so on, you will still be stuck. I mean, we know there are those that have been having the privilege, but now they are in sectors that are not really giving them something viable for them to be able to progress. And what is important is that we are fortunate that government was able to expose many areas, even this one of creative, of arts and culture. It has been looked down at in the past.
Yes.
But if you probe and look at it further, there's a lot of opportunities that are available for it. We take, for example, if the film industry can boom in our city, a lot of people can benefit from it, starting from those who are doing bead work to those who are owning the cameras and all the equipment necessary. Houses, your dressmakers, everyone can benefit from just creating the industry. But it depends on the support that that particular local government is providing to the people for them to be able to live. And I think women have been exposed to a little bit of it. There's a lot that we must be given opportunity on. But I think one does not have to sit and wait for it to happen.
Yeah.
And constant engagement with private sector and also those who have the know-how can assist us in moving forward. I'm not sure whether I'm answering your question.
Your test. Because these are things that we would genuinely would love to know as women, that, you are in influence. And because I, most of the time, hear people saying, politics are boring, particularly the woke or, the new age and whatnot. But what we don't realize is that when you talk about politics, you talk about policy change, you talk about the real and tangible development of the country. So when we have women who are leaders in that space, that's why I asked the question, so that I could hear.
Politics is all over. Politics is in your house. It's in your church. It's all over. And that's what the youngsters do not realize.
Yes.
They just want to see what they want to see. But women in politics fight so much harder than the men in politics, because they can see what that child is going through, what that child wants to be, and what that child wants to go through to succeed, to have a successful life, to have a career, to own things that their parents and their grandparents never owned. So we need to let the youngsters see that they, just because they're not in the apartheid era, doesn't mean that they are privileged to just do and say what they want. They need to open their eyes and see that politicians are not just there for the money,
for the salary,
to get there and to get that piece of money and put it in their pockets. But they do. I'm not a politician. I'm not a councillor. But I'm a politician's wife, and I know what they go through. I have female politician friends, that's councillors, and I see what they go through, how they have to fight to keep standards up there for women and for children also, so that they can have a better education and so that they can have a better life. And you won't believe me, you think that men fight, but women fight harder.
I actually, now you've just said, I'm not a politician, I'm a politician's wife.
But I think if there's one thing that we need to talk about and address, your homework. We pay a lot of money on schools and they bring a lot of homework at home. Part of he's talking about. Hi guys. Hi. Homework. It's a woman's struggle. Homework. Hi.
The children say, "Mommy, this is your homework."
Too much homework.
List when men march. And
Homework.
Stand by a woman. One of the things you should be voicing out is the too much homework. I can't believe it.
If the children say, "Mommy, this is your homework," how can that be our homework? The children say that.
I was still good with time.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask this question on the politician. So I will direct it to you, Babalwa, that being a woman in the political space, I mean, when we look at history, even most of these political parties were started off by men, right, who were brave enough to do it, and because the circumstances of the time allowed them to, or were favorable to them starting their own political parties, because they are leaders in their families and therefore leaders in the society, right? What I essentially wanted to ask is, how's the experience been for you as a woman? Do you find that you almost have to walk out of home, and when you step into the political arena, you must stand a bit differently. You must voice, because right now, as I'm listening to you, right, from the moment you spoke, there's one thing that keeps distracting me. You sound like a smile as you speak, right? It's so no, I promise you. And usually black politicians have a particular accent, right? And it also depends on which political party you come from, by the way. So you do have the ANC accent of speaking English. However, no, you
What
do.
does that mean? Okay.
Don't worry about it. People who are looking on know these things. You don't know them. We can identify who comes from the EFF, who comes from the DA just by the accent.
No, all of you guys, every party has their own
accent. Yes. Okay. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, you do.
That's why. I'm going to look out for that.
So you have the ANC accent, right? However, the thing about it is, it's not. As I say, it just sounds like it's smiling when you speak. And therefore, there's something feminine about it. There's something very feminine when you speak. Not necessarily because of your choice of words. I don't know what it is. It might be a combination of factors. But there's something pleasing about listening to you speak that says smile. You sound happy and content and whatever else it is. When you step into the political arena, whether you're coming to argue for something within your political party, or you're coming to argue for something in council, for instance, do you have to change your posture? Do you have to now think fight mode? I'm gonna wear, that other thing now, so that they don't delela me. They don't feel like, oh, she's so sweet. Actually, she's she's nice. You know what I mean? How do you find that there's something like that? Do you have to dress it up to a point so that they can respect you, or you just step in as you are and you allow your softness to be part of your hardness as well?
Hey, unqakile lo mbuzo.
Time this happens to me, right? Where a person is like, "Uthini, guys?"
But I think I'm not the best person to answer it. I think maybe if my colleagues would have answered it better than me, because honestly speaking, I have an advantage of ukhulela elokishini. Yabona umuntu waselokishini is able to dovetail in many environments. So if ku wrong, ndiyakwazi uba wrong. If ku right, ndiyakwazi uba right. So I think the atmosphere in the room is quite relaxed. So I'm me.
That's why you're like that.
So there's nothing that brings aggression, and even going to meetings, I'm just by nature a happy soul. So
you sound it.
And my advantage is that within the politics we've been inducted from SASCO level. Omstorff, who was the former premier, when he was he kept on doing those lectures on weekends, and he was consistent. At the time, we didn't understand him fully. But they used to be more emphatic on the fact that liberation, being part of the liberation struggle is not about you only. As a result, they used to say, I is not used in the ANC. You must use we, so that you understand that you don't represent yourself. By virtue of being elected, you must know you are elected for the people, not for you. And I think, hence, in many platforms, it does not become personal. Even if you are fighting for something, you are fighting for others. Hence, you must forge forward, even if the conditions are not permitting, but you must be able not to disappoint those that are waiting for you to rise to the level that is expected. So hence I'm saying maybe the question is not for me.
For those that experience
it. For those who are watching me doing it. So, yeah.
Can I think that women has got different caps. Because a woman, they call us the doctor, they call us the mother, they call us the aunt, they call us the nurse, they call us the teacher. So we are being labeled with different caps. And I think if you step into the different arenas that you are going to, you have to put that cap
which code
on.
To use.
Yeah, you have to put that cap on. So I think in a way she does, maybe she doesn't realize, but she does put on that political cap when she's going into a political arena.
Space.
And when she's at home, she's a mum. And she puts that cap, that soft-hearted mum, that cap on. So yes, I think you do change when you're in a certain arena.
Yes, I am glad to have shared time and space with you, and I now understand that there is no I in the space. So we have come to the end of to the end of our conversation. We've been warned. We have we are aware that Usas Babalwa is rushing off to Cape Town. But thank you so much for sharing time and space with us, for sharing your mind and your energy with us, to both of you. It was an absolute pleasure. I just want to get maybe just one liner from each of you, just for Women's Month, to our women, to our brothers and fathers who will be marching with us with their placards. What is your one message? If you had to look back to the ladies who marched back then and say they're giving you one sentence to tell to the people who are watching and listening today, what would that sentence be?
It would say the struggle is not over, and the power and the baton that they have given us, we are still carrying it because we still want total liberation.
Full stop.
And
Aviral?
Representative.
I would say be true to yourself. Be the one who will make the change, who will be the change.
Bless you, lady. Bless you. Thank you so much. We're out. This has been beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
You are